All right, hello everybody. Welcome to our next lesson here. This is Building an American Dream. This is for our unit or the unit Post-War America. So objectives and standards to explain different types of businesses that grew in post-war America and to analyze the changes to the American family. Please take a moment there to read over the standards. And our desired results, what changes occurred to American families during the post-war period? So many Americans are going to shift their occupations away from factory or industrial work in the post-war period, okay? Instead, many are going to go off to go work in offices for advertising or sales companies, and Americans work for conglomerates as well. A conglomerate is a major corporation that includes a number of smaller unrelated industries. So we're moving more towards office work and sales and advertising and things like that instead of going to go work in a factory or an industrial environment. We're also going to see the rise of franchises at this time. Now, a franchise is a company that offers similar products or services in various locations. A great example of this would be the rise of fast food restaurants such as McDonald's, Burger King, things like that. If you have a McDonald's here in Pennsylvania and you go over to McDonald's in New Jersey, you expect to have same type of hamburger, right? You're going to have the same type of Big Mac. You're going to have the same type of French fries. They're not going to be too different, right? You're expecting the same type of product, the same type of taste, the same type of smells. So that's a franchise. They're offering the same products or services in different locations. Now, finding the fit. Companies such as offices and advertising companies at this time want people who would conform and fit into their idea of an employee. They don't want people who are going to question them or, say, why are we doing this? They want people just to kind of come to work, do their job and go home. They also rewarded workers for teamwork and loyalty. But some begin to question this idea of conformity, of going to work, doing your job, coming home, going to work, doing your job, coming home. And people felt like maybe, they were just, robots almost. They really didn't have any sense of individuality. And we'll talk about that later next week when we talk about the Beat movement. So building a better life. The new company life of conformity did wear some Americans down. It does obviously make people question things. But however, it provided people with the things that they wanted and needed at the time. Many people are going to move out of the cities and be able to buy homes in what will become known as the suburbs. Suburbs are these small communities that will rise following World War II, surrounding cities. And Americans will begin to commute with their automobiles to work. So welcoming babies. When veterans return home from war, they begin settling down and contributing to what becomes known as the baby boom. Many veterans had gotten married during World War II or get married following World War II, so they begin to have families. And of course, with these new jobs, their incomes begin to rise. They're able to afford more things, including children. So from the late 1940s to the early 1960s, there was an explosion of births in America. So this chart here shows you the U.S. birth rate from 1940 to 1980, and it tells you can see the baby boomer generation in red. So you can see here from about 1945, following the end of World War II, or at the end of World War II, we can say, maybe 1946 or so, we can say maybe, but up until about 1964, 1965, is when the baby boomer generation happens. And I know my mother is part of this baby boomer generation. I know many other adults. You probably know maybe your grandparents or your parents or other people that you may know are part of this generation. But this covers, a good, 20 years or so that people are born in. So advances in childcare. Breakthroughs in medicine also help save the lives of children in the post-war period, which also allows people to, be able to have more children in the 1920s and 30s. And prior to that, unfortunately, children may have died young because we didn't have the proper medicine or care for children. So families might have been hesitant to have more children sometimes because they were concerned that maybe their children wouldn't all live to be adults. But with the, advances in medical care and things like that, that changes. I know my grandmother, she had some cousins who died younger back in the 1920s and 30s, but again, in the 1950s, we begin to see that change. One of the things that helped change that was Dr. Jonas Salk, his picture there, developed a vaccine for polio. Polio is a disease that claimed the lives of many Americans, especially children, prior to vaccination. President FDR, President Franklin Roosevelt, had polio, got it as a younger man, and sometimes you see pictures of him walking on crutches or in a wheelchair. So polio was a very debilitating disease and took the lives of many Americans. So with the rise of this vaccine for polio, this obviously helped, advance medical care for children and others. There was also a parenting guide for raising children, so those who may have not been so sure about how to raise a child, there are publications out there for it. Now, the baby boom did not just increase the size of the population. We'll see toy companies start to increase their sales. Obviously, with more children, we need more toys. So we'll see toy companies see their income increase, and also schools. We'll see new schools being built, the rise of schools, new elementary schools, and things like that. So we'll also see a rise in school population as well. So the role of women. Remember that during the 1940s and during World War II, many women went to work in the factories and industries to support the economy in the country during the war. Some women actually served in the military as well in non-combat positions, but in the 1950s, with men returning home from war, women are going to be sent back to the kitchen, as they would say. They're going to be sent back to the home, they're going to lose their jobs, most of them, and their role is going to be seen as a homemaker and a mother, taking care of the children, cleaning, cooking, grocery shopping, all those things that they consider quote-unquote feminine. Now, this was accepted by many women. Many women did accept this role, but some are going to feel very bored with this role as well. And women will find jobs outside the home in different fields, but they were very limited in what they could do. They were very limited to working in offices, becoming teachers, or nurses. So here's a picture of the typical American family from the time period. We can see, the father or the husband in the suit here, probably coming home from work. We see the children who were, supposedly cleaned and dressed nicely and, being polite and excited to see their dad, and maybe they're excited for dinner. And then here's the, the typical wife or mother, with her apron on. She's cooked what looks like maybe a cake or pancakes here. Looks like a cake of some sort. But again, this was the typical view of Americans and of American society in the 1950s. And again, many people are going to accept this as the American dream. The husband goes to work every day and comes home. The wife stays home and takes care of the children and cooks and cleans. And the children, are typical children. So what changes occur to American families during the post-war period? That's your question for today. And please try your best on the other questions as well. Hope you have a good rest of your day or night, and I'll talk to you soon.